Alfred Carter.
Okay. And Alfred, when did you first come to MCC?
I came to MCC in December of 1988. I was hired as the director of the Social Science and Human Services Division.
How did you hear about the position?
The president, Louine Corin, had worked with me at Mercer County Community College in New Jersey, and Von Seal Wright, whom she had hired in the counseling. And they sent me a notice and asked me was I interested. And initially I said no. And then I said, well, I'll interview for it. And I think that I was the last person to be interviewed by Jonathan, who interviewed me at a restaurant, local restaurant, because it was a Saturday, the school was closed. And eventually got offered the position and accepted.
So you were at a community college in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've been there about 17, 18 years.
So was this a different culture or environment up here in Manchester?
Very different. New England, when I first came, New Englanders themselves, in fact, colleagues here at the college told me, you're coming to a place, a land of steady habits. And I didn't know what that meant initially. They said we're slow to change. And in some ways, it was, you had to break into the culture. I'm a Southern-born fellow, and so I grew up in Virginia, born in Virginia, grew up in Virginia. And coming to New Jersey was different as well, and then coming further north was a little different in the sense that it was a culture that was already built. And the way to then become comfortable was somehow to find friends and colleagues and others who either invited you in and made you part of the community or introduced you around in that sense. It wasn't that I felt alienated, it just felt very, very different.
How did you notice differences in the student population from New Jersey to Manchester?
I don't think so. I think what I found, and that question often comes up because I also taught in North Carolina, that the students I find are very, very much the same. The students who have problems have similar kinds of problems. Students who are motivated have similar kinds of motivations for what they want to do. This was the second sort of urban environment that I worked in. But no, I found the students refreshing. Although it didn't start out that way, my career in student services tended to be the crown and glory of everything I've ever done in academia. So I find students to be pretty much the same wherever I go, yes.
Who were some of your colleagues, who were some of your colleagues who were helpful or influential when you came to the college in the late 80s?
I think when I came here in the late 80s, Andy Paterno was one of the individuals who welcomed me here at that particular time, Tom Bevere. Jonathan Dalby was obviously the one who interviewed me. Lois, and I can't think of Lois's last name now. Lois Daigle in sociology. Al Freeheit. Those were the people who, and Marianne Hanley, and those were the people who welcomed me there and made me a part of the community. And of course, Louine Corin was my supervisor at that time. And then there was, some of the other, Linda Thomas welcomed me here in terms of, and Von Seal was here at the time, and several other colleagues who made it very, very comfortable throughout. And then I met other folks along the way, like you and Chuck and others who became colleagues of mine. Yes.
Now, you were hired for an academic position to be the director of the
Social Science
Division.
Mm-hmm.
What motivated the move into the student affairs area?
Right. I had been I've been in higher education almost all my life. I got out of graduate school and went right into higher ed. And having been teacher in the classroom, having been assistant academic dean, having been the director of a program, having taught in the Prison Education Network in New Jersey, having served as a counselor, and then division director and assistant academic dean. When this position opened up, the other dean was leaving. And it was suggested by Andy and several others that I apply for the position. And so I decided to apply for it, and I took it initially just for the first 6 months, interim, and then decided to apply for it as full-time. I think part intuition, part being encouraged by colleagues, part that I had been in the academic area a long period of time, and I think I was peaking there in the sense of how to keep myself interested, how to keep myself motivated, and then I was loving the fact that I could be a mentor, because I've been a mentor ever since I was in first grade. And I think that as I found that connection with students, that it was then a smooth transition into student affairs.
I know that you took interest in a significant number of students during your tenure here. Can you think of one or two individuals who really stand out in terms of being able to turn their lives around at MCC?
Absolutely, yes. There were about 10 group of young men and women that I became an advisor to, a mentor to, early in my career. And all of them completed Manchester. And by the way, their background was that some had gone to urban schools, had been told they weren't college material. Several had graduated through the GED program with the Urban League, things of particular nature. Several couldn't read very well when they first came. And then when I started mentoring them, they used to hide from me and things like that. So we would have these debates at the end of the day, at the end of the class. They'd come in the office, they'd sit on the floor, and we'd have these intellectual debates. And all of them got their associate's degree. All of them got their bachelor's degree. All of them got their master's degree. A couple of them have their doctor's degree. And several of them are making more money than I've ever made in all of my career. So I've been very proud of them, yeah, and all of them still maintain contact with me.
So suffice it to say, this has been a very rewarding profession for you.
For me, I think it has been, and I really, as I say to the young people that I mentor, and some of them are not so young. The oldest person I continue to mentor is in the 50s. So that I say that wasn't so much about me, but that I was gifted with the opportunity to be able to share their lives. They allow me to be a part of their lives. They allowed me to mentor them. And I think I grew as much as they did.
Did you notice changes taking place within the college from the late 80s through, say, 2010?
I think so. Manchester, when I first came, in my perspective, was very much of a small community with people who knew each other, interacted with each other, lived in each other's communities, socialized with each other. And it was a small community, small town, small college mentality. Not in a negative way, but that was just a characterization of it. And it was hard, therefore, to become a part of that. You were sort of an outsider. When I came, it was also Manchester was dealing with challenges of diversity and how to be inclusive and how to embrace diversity in a way that made the community, the campus community, comfortable for everybody, and in terms of faculty, staff, as well as students. And so I saw over the 21 years plus years that I was here a gradual change. Some of it commitment, because of commitment at the top, commitment of other individuals, commitment of the campus community to really engage in conversations about diversity. There was some painful, I will say to you, there were some painful times. There were some times when I personally considered leaving. But there were a large number of people who were supportive, who were open, who were progressive, who were honest, and who really wanted to make Manchester a place that was welcoming to everyone and an effective, because being welcoming is not enough. It has to be a place which can be effective in working with all kinds of people and making their learning experiences and their growth experiences positive. And I think I've seen that over the 21 years.
Can you think of any things that you would have wanted to have done but maybe were prevented from doing it because of lack of resources or time?
I've thought about that, and I think I'll answer it the way I said about my life. There was a friend of mine, my best friend and I, said that we wanted to live our lives in such a way that we never ever said, I wish I had, I wish I could have. And it's pretty much the same about my career. Yeah, there were times when we didn't have as much money as we wanted. We lost the athletic program, part of it, at one point. But I had a director of athletics, Cindy Washburn, who we talked to the president and we met with the chancellor, and there was such passion that said, look, if you can't give us 100%, give us 80%. So we were able to keep 4 teams rather than 6 teams. And we'll find some money and we'll do some things. And the program survived, the program lasted. It continued to produce championship teams in baseball and basketball and things of that particular nature. But in all, the things that I wanted to do was to create a division, student affairs division, that was respected, a student affairs division that was effective, a student affairs division that, with all of its foibles, felt like an academic arm of the institution and not second class at all, and a group of people who were committed to working with students effectively. And I think when I look overall back on the career, that happened. Now, I don't always claim the credit, because I think you can't be good at something unless you have a whole lot of other people that are there with you. But they allowed me to lead. They allowed me to grow with them. And they were committed to being a good division. And I think in the end, and you may have found in talking with some of the other deans, that we reached a point where we could negotiate back and forth. We would give and take, and we respected each other. Not always agree with each other, and certainly sometimes we were certainly on different planes, but we respected what each other was doing and really respected what was happening in the various divisions. So no, I don't think there's anything that I wish I could have done and wasn't able to do, even though sometimes the money just wasn't there.
If you were talking to someone who had just been hired to begin his or her career at MCC this year, what advice would you give that person?
I would say to any new employee, first, be independent enough and daring enough to have an opinion, and collaborative enough to listen to others. But focus primarily on your commitment to students, because ultimately your success or failure, irrespective of all the other stuff that you have to deal with, is how you work effectively with students. Your commitment to students, your understanding of the students that you have, your respect for students. Because even when you don't necessarily have great relations with some of your colleagues because of philosophical differences, because of any kinds of differences, if you are effective with students, I think it's a winning combination.
Well, let me ask the question from another perspective. Suppose you were speaking to an incoming freshman, an 18-year-old recently out of high school, perhaps with a spotty academic record. What would you tell that person he or she needs to do to be successful at college?
I would tell any student in that particular situation, find a mentor first. Find someone who believes in you. Find someone whom you trust. Find someone whom you can discuss your challenges without being judged. Connect with someone who encourages you, who listens to you. And it doesn't always have to be a professor. My most effective mentor when I was a freshman in college was the janitor, who sat and talked with me and kept me on a path, and certainly showed me a way, was supportive and nurturing when other people weren't as nurturing. So find someone at that institution that makes you feel like you're supposed to be there and makes you believe that you're going to be able to be successful. The rest of it will come, because I'll tell you that what I found is that students who don't do well sometimes, it's not because they can't. It's because they don't believe that they can, or they haven't connected with someone who keeps nurturing that. Even when they feel like they can't make it, that someone, that mentor, tells them you can and works with them to find alternative methods to succeed.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that we may not have discussed?
I think Manchester has a rich history to be proud of, and I think it's one of the good things. Hopefully, this written this program will capture the foibles which it was able to overcome. Will capture the strength and the commitment that exists here. That shows the reality of a community where not everybody thinks the same way all the time, but work together for a common purpose. And a college that has survived in some cases, in spite of the challenges that it's had. And that the staff who've come through, I should say that from the time I came until the time I retired in 2009, I think it became a community where diversity was welcomed. Diversity was not just tolerated, but was appreciated and respected. It was functional. It was fluid. It was very much a part of the community. And yes, it's not an ideal community. You have individuals who still have issues on all sides. But I think one of the things, I was proud to have worked here, and I have great memories of it. And when I left with great feelings about Manchester.
Very good. Anything else, Jeff?
I don't know if you certainly do not have to share this, but I know you adopted some of those mentees. Can
Mm-hmm.
you talk a little about that?
Yes, yes. In fact, I often say that my wife and I have 6 children, 10 grandchildren, about 20 adopted children, and about 15 godchildren. And some of those godchildren are the young men and women that one I officially adopted, and officially unofficially adopted. I've become his father, and I have grandchildren, wedding, and all of that. But I think what the students said at my retirement, and what I've said to them was that I have been blessed with I think it's a gift and you have to earn it, and I don't, it's not ego anymore. I'll be 64, so it's not ego anymore. But I'm proud of the fact that I have a temperament and a commitment to work with students and appreciate students wherever they are. And I think because I was a mentor ever since I was in elementary school, that these young men and women believed in me, and we became each other's helper. They became introduced to me, and we introduced each other to the broader circle. And so all of them have made sure that their children have been exposed to me. And so now it's kind of, I had to accept being an elder, because they have sort of moved me in that direction. And what they've often said is, you're wise. But what I say in response to that question is that you gain wisdom as you're able to use it effectively. You are gifted with a certain amount of wisdom as you grow older. Not everybody who gets older gets wiser. But I think if you listen, if you hear, and if you internalize positive kinds of things, then you're given the wisdom. And then what they've been doing is seeking me for the wisdom. And now I continue to learn from them. Those young men and women are my family now. Those are the young men and women who I told as we develop relationships, be successful, get married, have your homes, build your homes, and build an extra room, because what I'll be doing is traveling from house to house to house for the rest of my life. And some of that's what I do. I still mentor many of those young people today. I get calls probably every day of the week now on retirement from some of those young people. Young people mature. I have escorted them in their weddings. I have asked their future partners, were they honorable and were they good for them. I have mentored them about children and making sure that they make appropriate decisions. I have babysat for them. So my life now is enriched because we still have strong relationships with all of them, and they are all over the country now. Yes.